If you want any chance of burning off belly fat, you need to watch this entire video. I'm going to explain 6 foods that will directly prevent you from ever losing your belly fat. I'm talking about a type of fat called visceral fat. That is a fat around the organs, keeps your body in a state of inflammation. And when your own fat is inflamed because you have visceral fat, that alone keeps you from burning it. Let's start with the first food, and it's this right here. Low-fat yogurt, 27 grams of carbohydrate. There's only 19 grams of sugar, but there's an additional 8 grams of hidden sugar as starch, but they don't really tell you. You have to read and understand the label because the first ingredient is low-fat milk. The second is sugar, water, and then the next one is modified food starch. That is hidden sugar. This is what it is right here. It's a powder. And let me tell you about industrial starch. It's not just modified food starch. It's modified cornstarch, maltodextrin, and many other types of starch. The reason why it's worse than sugar is that it's not really sweet. So people are consuming a lot more of it than actual sugar. If you look at the glycemic index, it turns into glucose a lot faster than table sugar turns into glucose. So even though it's not classified as a sugar, it acts like a sugar, but worse than sugars. It's creating this constant elevation of blood sugar, which is going to burn out your pancreas a lot faster. It's going to lead to more diabetes. What's really wild is the purpose of the starch in food is just to act as a filler. It's something to add bulk in a product. Industrial starch goes through high heats, chemical processing, deodorizers. They take out the color with different chemicals. So you're ending up with this like completely dead product that then has to be flavored, colored. And then if we look at the bottom of the label, it'll say made with bioengineered food ingredients. That is another word for GMO, genetically modified ingredients, creating this appearance of very healthy, but it's not very healthy. Next food item we're going to talk about is processed meat. Processed meat is very different than grass-fed beef. We're going to take a look at this chicken hot dogs with pork added. The first ingredient is called mechanically separated chicken. What the hell is mechanically separated chicken? That is a refined product where they process it. I'm not even objecting to that one. Okay, what I am objecting to, the corn syrup is actually made from the corn starch. This is an industrial sugar that will really spike your blood sugar. It's not healthy. And when you add sugar to meat, what you're going to get is something called advanced glycated proteins. They're not very healthy. They have to use high heats. They use ammonia, sometimes chlorine to kill the bacteria. This is the stuff that they put in the chicken nuggets and a lot of the other breaded chicken meats. Of course, they also added the modified corn starch in here as well. You don't want to buy a hot dog that has that much starch and sugar. A much better hot dog would be something like this. Let's take a look at these ingredients. Organic grass-fed beef. Then we get sea salt, organic vinegar, baking soda, organic garlic, organic spices. Take a wild guess how much carbohydrate is in this. 0 grams. Here you are trying to lose weight, thinking that you're eating all this great protein when in fact you're not. The next one we're going to get to is my favorite, the Atkins products. This gives you a perception that, wow, it's keto friendly, it's low carb, 1 gram of sugar. You're automatically thinking, man, this is great. Until you read the ingredients, milk protein concentrate and then the soy protein isolate. These are very low quality proteins, the cheapest proteins you can possibly imagine. The very bottom contains bioengineered food ingredients. It's not truly nutrient dense. It doesn't come from any real food. It's highly processed. If Dr. Atkins ever knew that this company would end up like this, he'd probably be very upset. I know I would be upset if someone started to market this under my name. But typically, when you consume these so-called keto-friendly foods, they add a lot of fiber in there. It's usually industrial fiber, synthetic fibers. You're going to get a lot of bloating, diarrhea. Over time, we're going to find out that that's going to really affect our weight, just like artificial sweeteners have been found to create more problems with our gut, converting into things that then lead to insulin resistance and more weight gain problems. The next food we're going to talk about is juice. First thing you see is 100% vitamin C. You're like, wow, healthy. But when you read the ingredients, this only contains 5% actual juice. Let's see what the ingredients are. Oh, wow. Water and high fructose corn syrup. This is literally liquid candy. I think this is false advertising. They shouldn't be able to put that on there. Now, the other thing that's interesting about this is they'll have a concentrated orange juice. That means that that juice could be sitting up to a year in a vat, losing all of the nutrition. Then we take it out and then we add water to turn it into something not very nutrient dense. If we're talking about actual juice, like orange juice, that usually has more sugar than soda. That's a lot of fructose. Fructose cannot be broken down by all of your cells. Only your liver can process that fructose. What happens because of that is your liver starts generating a lot more fat. It creates more of a fatty liver than actual glucose, because with glucose, at least all your cells can metabolize it, but with fructose, only the liver can break it down. The next product I want to talk about is agave nectar. It's something like between 15 and 30 on the glycemic index. Now, how can that be? It's a sweetener. It tastes just like sugar syrup. Well, that's because 80 to 90% of it is fructose. Only a very tiny bit of it is glucose. You don't want to consume things that are very high in fructose. That's going to really mess with your liver. Coconut sweetener would be better, and also honey is better if it's raw. But if you're trying to lose weight, probably not a good idea, because anytime you consume sugar and starch, you're going to spike the glycemic index, and that's going to bump you out of ketosis. One little side point about insulin. I think it'd be super valuable for all these doctors to do periodic screenings of testing your insulin, because your insulin will go high about 15 years before your blood sugars start elevating. But we don't do that. Doctors don't test insulin. It's going to be left hidden to the point where eventually your blood sugars will rise, and then you have diabetes, and it's been brewing in the oven for 15 years. And well, now we got to put you on medication. Lastly, I'm going to get into mayonnaise, which basically is mostly soy oil processed through industrial heats, hexane chemicals. You're getting a lot of extra things that you don't really want. This type of fat goes into your fat cells, and it doesn't get burned like saturated fat. It stays in your fat cells longer. And so when you consume this and you're just storing this in the fat cell, I think this is behind a lot of chronic disease, and time is going to prove that, especially since they call these oils heart healthy. And that's going to be a class action suit waiting to happen. Now you know at least 6 foods and the ingredients in those foods to stay away from if you really want to lose your belly fat. We're good.